Yeah,
But they said
I
like
am a little
there's more
worried.
than like a third or half of Americans choke at night snoring and wake themselves up.
Well, haven't you ever done that?
Probably.
So I feel
don't
like
know.
the few times, I don't think I snore. Do I snore? I don't think you and I
No.
snore, but
We
like
would live
if
in
you're,
different houses if you snored.
we wouldn't live together.
You live with your chickens.
Yeah, I'd be in the chicken coop. Hi, friend. This is Annette.
This is Jared.
And welcome to our Happy Family podcast.
We're passionate about happy, healthy relationships.
And that only happens with happy, healthy people.
So join us each week as we discuss the ingredients of making your own happy family.
Thanks for joining us. Let's jump in.
So I think it's time we talked about the night I slept with two women.
You're hilarious.
When I told her that I was going to tell about this, she's like, what?
Jared's like, I have a great story to start off our podcast today. It's going to be about when I was like, oh, dear. Anyways, carry on.
Thank you. I will carry on. So one of the things no one tells you when you have a little girl that you love a lot is that she will want to sleep in the same bed with you.
That's like probably a whole nother podcast, the whole topic of, do you let your child sleep in your bed? We can address that later.
Yes, we do. And every night, around midnight, she runs in and hops up on the bed and gets in between us and kicks Annette that way and pushes me this way, and she's just lounging around.
I mean,
she is living her best life.
Yeah, she falls asleep in her room. So we have about like 5 hours. We're not asleep from 7 to 12. No, I'm just saying like in the evening, like she's asleep for a while, and then
it's her bed.
And it's her bed.
And no one tells you about this.
Pretty much we're on little sides. I have like a sliver, and it gets better. We have our cat Georgia, who now is in our room too. And so I have Georgia on top of me.
Turn this way.
And Ava, like, yeah.
You want to turn again? Turn in the middle, then you turn this way. Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean to interfere your sleep. Ah!
And then she'll get annoyed too. It's like she's grumpy.
Oh yeah, she's like grumpy.
Like,
she's like, what are you doing?
Like let me
in my bed.
And then the sheets get all like, I don't even know, like jumbled up. She likes to be outside of the sheets.
Oh yeah. So we're like trying to pull the sheets up, and she's like, ugh.
I end
she's
up
got
with
these
like
onesies. She's like cozy as a camper.
Yes, maybe that's the solution.
We need to put her in a bathing suit.
We thought we'd talk
night.
about sleep for this podcast today. I think we probably need to be talking about what clothing we should wear for sleep. We need onesies.
We need onesies.
That might be the solution, actually.
That's the ticket.
I'm literally on a corner, and I'm just telling you, friend. Jared doesn't like to admit, but the sheets and things all end up his direction. So I end up in a little corner, and I'm trying to like pull the little tiny corner of blanket that's left, and that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. So the night I slept with two women was last night, and the night before, and the night before that.
And every night for the last 5 years.
And it's fascinating. So,
living our best life over here.
Living our best life.
Getting our best sleep. Trying to figure out how to get our best sleep.
That's right.
Right? Oh, man.
Annette is my Puritan kosher wife. So when I told her the title of this podcast is How to Sleep with Your Partner, she's like, oh, my word.
Oh.
I like to embarrass this one. Now, this woman's mom, just for the record, is someone that will walk through TSA and say, did you check for my bombs?
Oh, I know.
And she'll have police escort her away and ask her questions. She'll say it was a joke.
I think that's the problem, is because I grew up with my mom who would make a joke of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I feel like sometimes I'm like, and then you like to, say things so that people want to, know more or whatever. Do you like catchy things, titles?
Yeah, that's
or
right.
To say things that sound alarming, but they're really not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm over here in the corner like, oh.
And that is. But here's the good news. We are going to deliver on intent today. So
We're talking about sleep.
We're talking about sleep, but not just how do you get good sleep, but if you are with someone else in your bed who you may call your ball and chain.
Oh my. Thank you.
I don't even think people use that phrase. People are going to be like, what is he even?
No, they do use it.
Anyway.
I think they do.
It is a whole nother animal to sleep with someone else and also get a good night's sleep.
Right.
If you're on different schedules or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd talk about it.
Okay.
And here we go.
You start off.
All right. So lately I'm obsessed with the longest living people in the world. What are the things they're doing that across all these cultures of people living to 100 and they're vivacious and they're full of energy? What are they doing? One of the things is they get a great night's sleep. And for most of them, they go to bed not too long after it gets dark. And they get that sweet spot of sleep, which is 90 minutes of sleep before midnight.
Mm.
That is the secret sauce. And we're going to try and talk a lot why.
Mm.
But you want to get to bed before midnight. And we're going to try and break that down some. But if you want to live a long, healthy life, sleep has to become as important as eating healthy, as exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to talk about at the end that those two things actually help you get better sleep. So
another fun fact about the longest living Americans, we'll cover this in a separate podcast, is that they all garden.
Oh, that's all of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That's
saying.
one of the common ingredients.
That's what I'm saying. Another fun thing about the longest living Americans is that they all
longest living people in the world. You're isolating it to Americans.
I am. I'm sorry.
Talking about people around the world.
Not just America. The groups all around the world is that they
are
also
gardeners.
Garden.
They are gardeners.
That's probably why they get good sleep.
That's probably why, because there's bacteria in the soil and a whole bunch of good things.
Melatonin, daylight. Anyways, okay.
All right, so we're going to talk about sleep.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, as I did some homework for this and put it in my newsletter as well. So anybody that doesn't have my newsletter, please subscribe. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. You will love it. Every week it's on a healthy habit with the longest living people, the strongest people. What are people doing to improve their health, improve their longevity? And with that, Annette, what in the world is happening while we sleep?
What happens when we sleep? Oh dear. Jared's like, you're the nurse. You should talk about the actual things of sleep. I'm like, okay. REM sleep. I think that's probably that's
stage 5.
I know, but the term most common that people know of, and I think in relation to sleep, is REM sleep. You think like, oh, REM sleep. I'm supposed to get REM sleep. But I don't think a lot of times we know like, well, what does that mean or when does that happen? But sleep happens, there's 5 cycles. So you start off with like you're dozing off. I like to think of that when you're like on the airplane and you're about to take off and there's like nothing else to do and you're sitting there and you like close your eyes for a second and then you're like, am I sleeping or am I awake? And then you're like, wait, did the plane take off? Did they not take off? I think that's when you're like dozing off, right?
Okay.
You're not like deep sleep. Anyways, number 2 is light sleep. Then 3 and 4 are kind of a deeper sleep. But you don't really go into your REM sleep until you're in stage 5. And what's interesting is
I think they can say it can be in the end of 4, but 5.
Towards 5. It takes a full like 90 minutes to experience that whole cycle. Did you know that in mice it happens every about 14, 15 minutes?
I did not know that.
Their REM, that's their cycle, 15 minutes.
Wow.
It takes us 90 minutes. So yeah, I think that's interesting and how it's 90 minutes, which you would think, I guess in my head, in a way it seems long and in a way it seems short. Like, oh, it just takes you an hour and a half to get into really deep sleep. Well, most of us sleep like longer than that per night. So you'd hope you get that, but some people don't get into that deep sleep just based on a lot of other like health issues or things that they have.
Or
They can't go
noise.
into that sleep. Yeah.
Or light.
Yeah. I was like looking up all these fun facts on REM sleep because, well, I just thought it's interesting in comparing it to animals, and house cats get 8 hours of REM sleep a day. I'm like, oh, come on.
Amazing.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways. So yeah, REM sleep, it's towards the end of your sleep cycle. You need about 90 minutes and it's like what you need.
And I'll add, you want to get ideally 5 cycles in a row per night.
Well, I think you're talking about that in a minute, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You talk about why we need REM sleep.
Okay.
Because it does what?
Well, it's not just the REM sleep. Basically, we have a problem in America specifically and in the West.
Yeah.
And it's increasingly around the world. So see if this sounds familiar. Basically, you wake up, maybe it's because of an alarm, maybe it's light outside, maybe you just woke up and you lean over.
Or a rooster.
Maybe it's a rooster. And you grab your phone and you start to look at the news, texts, emails, the scores from last night.
Oh, like right away or something.
And did I mention emails? And then it's like, oh, I can't believe they wrote that. Or I got to do this. Oh, man.
Yeah.
And then your brain, like, you're already late on the day. And so with the longest living people, they basically have these routines. that are super important. I think you're going to touch on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I just mentioned that because, you almost have to reverse engineer sleep, because if you keep waking up and you're basically just stressing yourself out with all the world's problems coming to you, it's not a routine for anything good. You're going to dread that, and then it's going to affect your sleep in reverse.
I know of a lot of people that say that you really should not, check your phone. You shouldn't wake up to your phone being your alarm because you're instantly going to look at it. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm guilty of that. You're instantly going to look at stuff. Your brain starts working, like you said, so that you really should wait until like after you
Keep it on
breakfast.
airplane mode.
Yeah, after like whatever you need to do in the morning, shower, get ready, read, whatever you do. And then, like, yay, I'm ready for the bombardment of everything the world is going to tell me on my phone today.
Yep.
So, anyways, but yeah, um, it's just, yeah,
Okay.
anyways,
All right. So
we're
the
overloaded all the time.
so there is a drug that is produced, a chemical in your body
Yeah.
called growth hormone. It is produced if you're sleeping. It is basically produced in this slow wave cycle of sleep, which is usually earlier on in your sleep. So they say those who can get to bed before midnight, it's like this is the sweet spot of when this is produced.
Oh, mostly only before.
Mostly before. And they say the growth hormone is especially beneficial for your body. So the way I've understood it all is sleep before midnight is great for your body. Sleep after midnight is good for your brain. And while we're sleeping, the body is ridding itself of toxins. I think this could even be toxic emotions that build up.
Mm.
We gotta sleep. Like it's so important. But especially, so this idea of going to bed before midnight, it's basically rejuvenating, for muscle growth, for tissue repair, for all these different things, for less wrinkles. That's why they
Oh,
call
that
this
should be
section
in
the beauty sleep,
that should be an instant like, oh, me.
right? So,
uh,
so that's easier said than done. But I just want to ask everybody: the next day, do you feel good about? I'm so glad I stayed up and watched Netflix till 1 a.m. Like usually
I mean,
nobody feels
sometimes,
that, and I'm not saying you never do that.
yeah.
My point is just there are other ways to re-engineer your life where you're like, you know what? I am glad that I made this decision, because really your day starts the night before, depending on when you go to
Oh,
sleep
like setting yourself up for success.
and how rested you are, and then your day is going. No matter how great your day is going to be, if you go to bed at midnight or 1 a.m., let's say, and you wake up at 6:30, it's not going to be as great of a day. Like your
Sure.
body's not going to feel as good. So many different things are going to be affected. So yeah, the human growth hormone part that is before midnight is a super drug. And if you are not sleeping before then, you're likely not getting the amount that you need.
That's interesting that you have to do that, or you just might not be getting it enough or at all, which is bad because I feel like a lot of us go to bed late.
Yeah. And many argue at all.
Yeah.
So it's basically, from all that I read, it basically said that the sweet spot to go to sleep is between 10 and 11. I mean, before 10 if you can, but for a lot of people, that's not
Yeah.
realistic.
9 p.m. I think it's harder when you have children. At
Yeah.
least for me, I'll speak for myself. Like it's hard to, you have she's home with me all day. So you have a full day of activity, doing everything you do. And then so she goes to bed. It's hard to like, okay, I go to bed at an hour after. Like there's not a lot of time to like think or plan the next day or wind
Mhm.
down or. So that's where I think that's been the hardest for me, I think, in going to bed earlier
Yeah.
is that but the flip side is I've not, because I haven't done it well enough or consistently enough. I haven't thought of it in reverse to where I just need to wake up earlier and then I get those hours
Right.
of time early in the morning versus, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Until your training regimen
Oh
starts.
man. Should I tell everyone?
Yes.
I haven't said anything yet. I feel like if I don't speak it into the universe, it's
Speak
not
it.
gonna, you know what I mean? Like once it's like out
It's
there.
real.
Oh man. So Jared's sister, I don't know, got this inspiration. We have a close friend of ours. His name is Seth. And I'm gonna be on his podcast in a few weeks. So I'll have to I'll share about that. But he is well, I would call him an athlete because I feel like he's like mega athlete and he trains, does triathlons, does iron, like the whole thing. Like he's actually a really good,
The real
the
deal.
real deal. I don't run or do any. I weight train, but I'm not a very endurance type person. And
Till now.
so my sister-in-law, we were all talking together, and he was like, "Oh, you guys should do a triathlon." And I almost like literally fell off the couch, literally, because our couch is very like you slide off, and I literally almost fell off. And we were sitting there, the three of us, and he's like, "No, I'm being serious." And I'm like, it would never happen that I'm doing a triathlon. He's like, "No, look, you can split it up like in a team. So one person does one part, one." And I was like, still sounds terrible. More plausible, still terrible. And my sister-in-law was like, "Oh, come on, you can do it." And she's never done anything like it either. And so I was like, well, here's me trying to be a team player over here. I'm like, well, maybe, possibly. So somehow I'm signed up for this thing, and I'm biking 20, I don't know, however many miles. Jared thinks it's excellent. So it's in June. So I got like 3 months. So I'm going to, sleep is apparently going to have to be from 10 to 12, going to have to be happening, because if not, I'm not going to have enough human growth hormone
juju to make
for my legs to withstand the, I don't know. I'm terrified, yet I feel like it's fun to, I guess, challenge yourself and do new things. So there you go. But
you're on it.
Okay, so 10 to 12 human growth hormone, and that's going to try her best, because
you got this.
She's doing I'm just going to start saying I'm doing a triathlon. I'm not going to really say I'm just doing part of it, because it sounds way more fun.
Oh, it does.
Because it is it is.
It is.
Yeah.
You're
just
amazing.
happened to be doing just one part of it. But anyways.
Yeah.
Whatever. Sleep before midnight. Okay, it's wonderful. So I think the thought is having a routine is ideal, I guess, right? Don't you feel like in your research, you were feeling like having a routine is what's really ideal?
Yeah, it's like, this is not just going to happen.
Right.
You're not just going to be like,
it might happen one day.
This is a great game. Oh, 10. Lay down.
Yeah.
Go to sleep.
So the thought is what, like 90 minutes pre-sleep and then 90 minutes post-sleep. That's a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, they talk about the longest living people, like they have these routines. Do you shower before you go to sleep? Do you, like, one thing was, all a lot of us are just on our phones till we go to sleep. It's basically telling the brain.
Jared, saying all of us, is saying Annette is on her phone. I have been better.
I didn't say that.
I have been better.
But here's the science. It's telling your brain it is not nighttime. Do not get ready for bed. So we think, well, I can look at my phone right up until I close my eyes. But what the brain needs then is when we close our eyes, it needs 30, 60, maybe 90 minutes to finally say, oh, it's nighttime. Now I'm going to start producing melatonin so that the body can have all these different effects. And now it's past midnight and you're not getting the growth hormone and you're not rejuvenating. So I think that's some of the details of it all, where we think, well, I turned my phone off, but that's why this whole thing with blue light and screen time, especially with kids.
Yeah. I'm guilty of you've done it too. Where it falls on your face.
Yeah.
You're like,
popped me in the head a few times.
You're laying there at night and I'm like, just one more thing. Just gotta do one more thing. Okay. And it just literally falls and slaps you in the face like you, like, it could break your nose. I don't know. Like I have an iPhone. It's big. It's a big phone. It's heavy. And it falls on your face. You'd think that would teach me a lesson. And then the next night I'm sitting there with my phone back in the same, So anyways, it's hard. I've tried to be better, but yeah, having a nighttime routine, I guess, winding down. And then the thought that we mentioned earlier is in the morning when you wake up, this is where I probably really need to work on this. In the morning when you wake up,
you need to wake up.
Yes. Like not to instantly start, like have a minute. I think, a lot of times people consider the morning time. And I do feel for me when I wake up early, it is really good for me. It's the time because it is so quiet and there is not a lot going on that I can focus the most. So it's probably the best time to do like prayer or reading or, whatever type of thing like that you do, where you probably can absorb it more because your brain hasn't started thinking about the 40 other things you have to do today.
That's right.
Kind of thing. So that is also kind of considered, part of your routine. And then I think it's because the stress of the day, I think once you open email, once you open whatever, the stress of the day
Is running.
is there. Even if you're not a high stress person and you're fine and it doesn't affect you or whatever, you are thinking about that. So to
Yeah.
try to give yourself that time, um, where,
Yeah, I'm gonna add one
yeah.
more thing there. So maybe it's because I have an addictive personality
Hmm.
that I'm very grateful I never have got into any addictions with any drugs or
Yeah.
alcohol or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say that few people could say like, no, my family's better or my life is better because of this thing. Um, so there's like increasing evidence of alcohol. It's like all these detrimental effects to us, specifically with sleep though.
Mm.
Um, but the most common drug in the world is caffeine.
Yeah.
And this fascinating book I just read about sleep, it basically said like athletes use caffeine for performance, but most of the world is using it to stay alive
Or like to wake up
and
or
doesn't
something.
realize like you're you're burning the candle.
Mm.
And he basically
Because
says,
it puts you in a fight or flight, doesn't it? It
well, it's
instantly
just
gives you
your
this.
body is like, I mean, that's why people drink caffeine. Like, I got to get running in the day. But
Hmm.
too often it's just we're not getting the sleep.
Mm.
You get the sleep, it's like, well, I don't really need. I have energy. I'm good to go. I mean, it's
Right.
fascinating to see a lot of people replacing their coffee with cold plunge because
Hmm.
it just, all the natural systems in the body are like, I'm ready to go.
Oh, so you're saying almost like before reaching for like I need more caffeine, considering like maybe if you got your sleep right, you would feel
Yeah.
well enough to not
So,
need that like boost or whatever.
yeah,
Okay.
just to recognize like
Yeah, yeah.
for some, it may be the ritual of a morning cup of coffee.
Mhm.
But if you're dependent on it to survive and get through the day, really assess like, what's my sleep like?
Mhm.
Am I getting enough sleep?
It's
Am I
probably not
getting to bed
great.
early enough? And it's probably like pouring airplane fuel in your car.
Mhm.
It's going to go a lot faster and it's going to be amazing. But eventually you're
Mhm.
going to burn the engine out.
Yeah, and
So just recognize
I
it.
mean, yeah, caffeine, yeah, and I mean it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Coffee is a big
You
thing.
never want to be
But I mean, there's
dependent on
also
something.
sugar, which not to bring it up, but I mean, sugar is also like it's like crack. I mean, it gets you uh probably that before sleep isn't great. I mean, we know that with kids, right? It's like a
Sure.
given. You don't give a kid sugar before bed. It's going to like make them hyper and it's going to be way harder for them to fall asleep or have good sleep and all of that. It's same for us.
Yeah.
Uh
And I think what's happening is there's been such an uptick, particularly with like melatonin and other natural supplements
mhm.
or drugs like Ambien and things. It's
Yeah.
basically, I need a drug in the morning to wake me up. I need a drug at night to put me to sleep. Those are not ingredients of people that live a long, healthy life.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
something to
And
consider.
that's yeah.
All right. Another one is
Oh,
sleeping in darkness.
yeah, this is interesting.
So,
Mm.
okay, here's a study out of 2016 study. Can avoiding light at night reduce the risk of breast cancer? And it literally goes into this idea that women who had a night light had a drastic increase in breast cancer.
It's crazy. I know there's been
Just a
more
little bit of
studies on
light at
that
night.
too. Yeah.
And I think the study leads to is you're telling your body it's not fully nighttime. So it's not fully replenishing. And there seems to be some cancer fighting effects. Maybe it's the growth hormone, maybe it's other uh, chemicals that are produced in the body at night, but even a night light.
Interesting.
So even a light out in the street. So that basically this elite athlete training coach, Nick Littlehales, he basically describes how for these athletes, he would tape uh, trash bags on the windows,
Oh,
like
wow.
whatever it takes to make sure they had a pitch black night's sleep. And then when it's time to wake up, turn on all the lights, turn on artificial light, or open up the windows, get outside. Your eyes need to see it is daylight. And by doing this, you set your and keep your circadian clock
Which,
going.
yeah, it's interesting. My mom's actually always had, she's like the worst sleeper ever. And I think her circadian clock is like completely all off, but I think it is that thing that if you don't sleep at the right time, like when it's dark, it's going to mess you up. So I used to work as a nurse and, a lot of nurses work the night shift. And so you come home and you try to sleep, which is crazy to think about. They don't get that 10 to 12 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Human growth hormone prime sleep, right? Um, but they come and home and sleep during the daytime. And so they'll usually have like the really dark blackout curtains, and all that. But still, it's not hard during daytime
Yeah.
to get a room super dark unless you go and like sleep in a closet that has no light or something. So, yeah, I guess it's the thought, do your best, like the best you can.
Yeah. But
Um,
it definitely affects you.
but yeah, it's crazy to think how much it can affect you. This was kind of an interesting thing. I thought about it because I had looked up some information on sleep, but how, as humans we need to have it like fully pitch dark, but how in a lot of animals they have it's called a unihemispheric sleep pattern, and so they can sleep with one eye closed and half their brain sleeps while the other one stays awake with light so they can watch for predators. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
Like if we could like sleep. So literally it says, and I thought this was really interesting. You might find this fun, but like chickens, for example, they'll sleep in a row. And ducks do this too. So the ones on the outside, they have one eye open, one eye closed. They're the guards and are watching for predators. And about every 2 hours, they'll shift their heads 180 degrees so that their other eye can get a break and their other side of the brain can watch
That's
whatever.
awesome.
And then the ones in the middle all have their eyes closed because they're protected. So they don't have to worry. And it says usually the male is in the middle, like the rooster is in the middle because I guess all day he works protecting them. So at night, it's the females that are on alert while he gets his best sleep for the next day. I'm like,
Wow.
what in the world? Anyways, so yeah,
That's fun. Okay, so
it's
now
pretty
the
cool.
part about how to sleep with your partner.
Okay,
It's
Jared's
hard enough
favorite.
it's hard enough to sleep by yourself on your own king bed.
Yeah.
Then you add other people into this same bed, whether it's king or smaller, and it becomes nearly impossible. Then you add ingredients like snoring,
Hmm.
which is all but an epidemic.
My dad, like, that's been the whole like debate in our house. Like growing up, it was
He's a bear. Yeah,
oh man, so
he
loud.
snores like
Jared, one time,
a
I
bear.
think one of the first times we were together, or the first time like we all, and my parents like, oh, we can stay in the same hotel room, and I think Jared almost died. Like Jared
Oh,
was like,
wow.
what is happening?
Because I'm like the
It's
lightest sleeper on
it's
earth.
so loud. Anyways, yeah.
So yeah, this is a pretty big deal. Reading this book about elite athletes, it said I think Roger Federer at tournaments would rent 2 houses next to each other,
Oh,
and he would sleep in one by himself to
I
have
kind
basically
of get it when
peak
you're
performance. Now
training.
that's a
Yeah,
luxury for
yeah,
super
of course.
athletes, but sleep is so important that I'm now convinced like you kind of got to do whatever you need to do. Like it maybe makes more sense that the royalty of old would sleep in different rooms at night.
Doesn't that sound so? What's the word? Scandalous?
I mean, it may, but
Like I Love
sleep,
Lucy. I Love Lucy back in the I don't what year, 50 when was that recorded? I honestly don't remember. But her and Lucille Ball and Ricky Ricardo, whatever, they would depict it on television. I guess that was like a big deal too back then that they were showing like the marriage, like the bedroom, but there was separate beds.
mhm.
And I kind of get it
Oh, I get it.
because
I totally get it.
so I
Especially if you have the little girl sticking her.
I know. So I read this thing. It seems wild, but I read this thing, and it was this study done on people who get married later in life, and so maybe they had previous relationships. I don't know, previous relationships, whatever. But these are people like over 50 who had are now in a relationship, getting married, or just living with someone, and how it showed that they they stayed in separate rooms at night to sleep
Interesting.
and how it was better for a few reasons. One, it's like at that age, I guess you're set in your ways, like in your sleep routine.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, like, to try to merge that after like 50 plus years of you having your own routine,
Yeah.
and then now you got to figure out, it's like, no, just all those different factors. And then the snoring was a big one. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I get that. And so it's like, yeah, let's just sleep in different rooms, which sounds, I mean, and I'm going to say, like, just because you sleep in different rooms doesn't mean you don't get to have alone time together. You just figure that out.
Yeah.
Like, anyways, but I think that's
So you're telling me we can each have our own king bed?
yeah, we don't have space in our
That'd be
house for that.
amazing.
We don't have a guest bedroom in our house. So, anyways,
Okay,
yeah.
last thing. So the snoring,
I mean, you can't. What are you going to do about that? There are reasons people snore, like meaning you could have sleep apnea.
it's not good for
You
you.
could have sleep apnea. You could be, a lot of times depending on your BMI,
Yeah.
like that could lead to more snoring versus less snoring. So there are things, obviously, a deviated nasal septum, like
Absolutely.
maybe if you could
The way
treat
you're
the
sleeping
underlying.
on your back,
Yeah.
on your side.
Yeah.
It was interesting. This new phenomenon with taping your mouth shut
Yes.
and forcing yourself to breathe through your nose, which they say can actually strengthen the muscles of your nose. Now, if your snoring is so bad, you're going to choke.
Yeah,
But they said
I am a little
there's more
worried.
than like a third or half of Americans choke at night snoring and wake themselves up.
Well, haven't you ever done that?
Probably.
So I feel
don't
like
know.
the few times, I don't think I snore. Do I snore? I don't think you and I
No.
snore, but
We
like
would live
if
in
you're,
different houses if you snored.
we wouldn't live together.
You live with your chickens.
Yeah, I'd be in the chicken coop, which we just pressure washed today. It's a dream. But anyways, I feel like I've had it before where you, like if you're sick or you're congested or something
Yeah.
and you're like laying back flat on your back. So your tongue tends to, anyways, you do this thing. All of a sudden you're laying there and you're like, oh, am I
Yep,
choking?
that was you.
That's what happens. You know,
that's what happens.
I mean, it does happen, but
It's a serious thing though. So it's
Yeah,
we're not knocking
but
it, but it's if you could find a way to figure out why am I snoring?
Yeah.
What are ways I could figure this out? You will feel better.
yeah, I agree. And there's something else that we didn't talk about, and I'll talk about it. I'll talk about two more things. One is it's been shown that the room should be colder, right? Studies have shown your room should be around 65 degrees
I mean, that's what they
for
say.
optimum sleep. So when we had Ava, there was like this book I read about sleep, and it's about kids and babies and all this stuff. And it said basically crank your temperature down to like 60 some degrees. That's optimal for baby's sleep. Jared was like, we ain't doing that. Jared was like, are you kidding? So it's your fault. She ended up sleeping in our bed. It's because she never learned how to sleep right
It is
because
my
we
fault.
didn't have the temperature down.
It's true. It's my
Jared and I, so we are.
fault. I was born to live in a tropical world.
Jared keeps our home a balmy, I don't know, 75.
Oh, okay. I don't know. That's
Okay.
a little
But
extreme.
at night, like Jared says, take the sheets off. No, I like to feel like I like to be under blankets.
Okay, but let's take that to reality. How many blankets?
We have 3. We have a sheet and 2 thin things.
I don't know if they're that thin. And then another blanket.
That's only if you need the extra.
And somehow, please, dear friends, listen to me. These find their way onto us, and I wake up in the middle of the night. What in the world's happening? Even though I like to be hot, not in the middle of the night. And then it's like,
but if we had
we are in
our
a rainforest.
air down, and I'll say another thing, there's so many things we didn't talk about. I feel
That's
like we've
true.
already been talking. Having like fresh air at night, having your window open really helps.
Yeah, that is
Getting
true.
fresh air at
That's a
night
good point.
is big for sleep.
Let me
if you
talk about
can
that for
do
a second.
Yeah.
John Harvey Kellogg, when they had the sanitarium in Battle Creek, and everybody, the who's who, all the
This
celebrities
is
are
like
coming
what,
there.
1800, early 1900s?
Late 1800s. He's got everyone come in there. They literally have these old pictures where they would take the window and like vent it through a tube over someone's bed so that at night they were breathing fresh air
It's
from
negative
outside.
ions. It's basically that, like having.
Yeah.
Anyways, those fresh, especially if it rains, there's a lot of negative ions in there. That's your best kind of
So you're
air
right.
to
Fresh air,
breathe.
all
So
about a
fresh
good
air,
night's
if you
sleep.
can crack your window open. I will say for me, the big difference, if we go sleep in a hotel and you can't open a window, I'm always like stuffy. Versus at home, we always keep a window cracked, and it's somehow that fresh air really helps. But and I was going to say, lastly, is don't negate or I don't know if that's the right term, but having nice sheets, or a comfortable mattress. Our mattress is like 8. I mean, we've been married almost 18 years. Our mattress is almost 18 years old, but it's still good.
Well, and so
Right?
it's interesting. This book talks about the mattress. He's like, everybody's sold on you got to remortgage your house to buy a mattress.
Yeah.
No. He's like, you got to figure a mattress where your spine aligns straight. And for different people, it's different things.
Yeah.
So he said, you can get it out of a $600 mattress.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to go spend 10 grand
Right.
on a mattress.
So I think the thought is, if you're going to spend so much time of your life, is that right?
a third of your life.
Thank you. Sleeping in your bed, look into it being a bed that's comfortable for you and sheets and things, that are going to be comfortable for you. Cause that's
It's going to matter.
because that's going to makes such a difference in your health and potentially your longevity.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly
so
right.
it's like don't skimp. Like we talked about splurging and saving a few weeks ago on the podcast, and it's like, well, maybe that's an area where maybe you should splurge more is
Mm-hmm.
like your quality sleep, all this stuff, versus because if not, But
Okay, I got
anyways,
my last thing.
Oh yeah,
2 things that will make you sleep much better.
yes, love.
Eating healthier, love. Eating healthier,
Mm-hmm.
not eating within 3 hours of going to sleep.
That's hard too
this
sometimes.
elite sleep coach guy.
Yeah.
And exercise. If you
Okay.
exercise in the day, you will sleep better.
Okay.
So easier said than done, but there's some secret
Basically,
sauce.
don't do anything in life. Just sleep and
Just
you'll be
sleep
fine.
and go run and then eat a banana and then keep sleeping running.
Yeah, and it's gonna be okay.
Live a boring
Anyways,
life.
I'm like, if I could be like a cat and get my 8 hours of REM sleep, solid 8 hours, I'm like, that would just be great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You wonder, man, like, yeah, that'd be great. But for myself, I'm going to say it on the podcast.
Say it, triathlete.
So I feel like it is on record that I am trying my best. I'm going to try my best to do better about going to sleep on time and waking up at the right time, etc.
All right, go get them.
All right, we'll see how it goes. But if you have, Jared mentioned it, but if you've not signed up for Jared's newsletter, we'll put it in the show notes, and then there's lots of great info on things like that. We'll cover more of those things on the podcast as well. And then obviously on the Azure Farm newsletter, you'll get all the info and all the other things. So just stay in touch.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week.
See ya.